Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.
All right, greetings. Welcome back, Canary King. Great, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining yet again, being a faithful viewer of the show. So, by popular demand, we are diving back into the situation with the Trump administration threatening the Nigerian government with sanctions, the withdrawal of aid, and a possible military strike against the terrorists who are engaging in a genocide of Christians in Nigeria. Yesterday, we decided that we were going to do this. And one of the things that I try to do is to provide you all with value that brings you back to the show. It's important that I do that because I value your time. I would rather talk about things that matter to you than things that I think or I assume matter to you. Now, before we jump in, please remember to like the live stream. It sends a signal on YouTube to let people know that it's something that is valuable for other people like you out there to join and to watch. And remember, this is all about conversation. So send in your thoughts, your chat. Let me know your thoughts on the subject matter that we are tackling. We're going to be opening up with a conversation that happened online. Was this video real or AI? You mean the intro video that I just did? Do you mean the intro video that I did? I need to know what you're talking about. Right, now, one of the things that I want us to really dive into is having a deep conversation about this topic. It seems to matter to a bunch of people out there like you. So let's talk about it. While I was preparing this video, this live stream, I got very emotional, and I hope I can hold it together while the live stream is going on, because as someone who lived in Nigeria for over 40 years, I told you guys in previous live streams that I don't like talking about Nigeria because it is a raw spot. It hurts to talk about Nigeria because irrespective of the fact that I left Nigeria, I still love my country. If I adopt a new country, I will honor the new country that I have moved to. I will not try to turn that country into the country I left. Do I love my country? I do. So I avoid talking about Nigeria because it is such a painful topic for me to do. And watching all these videos, because I had to look through some of them to make sure that they were on topic, was very painful, and it was a very emotional morning for me. I hope I can get through this without getting emotional at some point. So we're going to open up with a call that was recorded. I think it was one of those group calls on X. There were Muslims, there were Christians talking about the country, and some shocking things were said. So I'm still waiting for the response. You asked a question, was this video real or AI? I want to answer that question before we play the video, or if there's no answer coming, We will dive into it. Usually I kind of ease into the topic of the day, but today we're going in hard and fast and furious. We're going to just go in and talk about this because it matters to all of us. All right, so let's jump into it. So this is a call that was taking place, and it was titled Senior Hamas Leaders Spotted in Nigeria Debate the War. So this is basically Nigerians having a conversation, and here's what one of them said.
Nigeria is going to happen, and there's nothing that these Labour Party dogs can do about it. Simple. We control the army, we control the navy, we control all the military, we control the executive, we have all the guns. Let's be real. Is it you guys? Is it the Igbos? Get the fuck out of here. The Igbos are trying to do their little insurgency. They can't even get that shit off the ground. Get out of here. All right? The Islamic Republic of Nigeria is going to happen, and there's nothing you are going to do about it. You think the Muslim ticket, that was just the start. Soon it's going to be a Muslim country. Arabic and Hausa will be the official languages of Nigeria. We're not speaking our colonizers' tongue anymore.
Bro, I knew you were a goddamn terrorist. I knew you were a motherfucking
Oh my God, terrorist this,
I knew you were a motherfucking terrorist. But now you said it out loud.
So this was a this was a call that happened on X. A bunch of Nigerians, both local and diaspora, were discussing the fact that a senior Hamas leader or senior Hamas leaders were spotted in Nigeria. These conversations happen regularly where it either devolves into a tribal argument or it becomes a religious argument. And this speaker said the quiet part out loud. We have a Muslim ticket where the president is a Muslim, the vice president is a Muslim. He says we have all the guns, meaning that they run the military. The top generals in the army are Muslim. The top officers in law enforcement are Muslim. They have all the guns. The plan is to turn Nigeria into an Islamic state. This conversation had been happening in Nigeria for over 10 years. In 2014, an audio was released that warned that Nigeria was on path to becoming joined to the Islamic the Association of Islamic States, basically, to designate it an Islamic country. People warned about it. They said it was a conspiracy theory. Like, that is why whenever I see things in North American news or European news, and the next thing you hear is that's a conspiracy theory, I don't pay attention to that nonsense because I've seen it work out in Nigeria for decades. People warn about something, then the first thing you're told is that you're engaging in a conspiracy theory. A couple of years later, you're listed as an Islamic country. How did that happen? But people were warning about it for years leading up to that. So this is the sentiment. And when people say, well, there's some footage that we're going to watch. Okay, I think I'm going to bring it forward. I'm going to bring it forward because it's important. Okay, so this footage, I'm going to bring it forward. And we're going to watch what the Foreign Affairs Minister in Nigeria says in response to the fact that Trump has basically warned the government. And he says, look, we're going to watch it. So let's watch it, please. I don't want to do the commentary.
People in this state
I'm so sorry.
Suffering.
Let me rewind. So first off, I want to ask you guys to support this guy. His name is Oral Vault Podcast. I have never listened to his content until I found this footage. He does some. I listened to him and it's like, what? He's an up and coming podcaster. Please, if you can, join him. If you want to learn more about what's going on in country, perhaps you should be listening to him. So let's go.
Now, first, let's start with listening to Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister. Then we can run a commentary. this: Nigeria's constitutional commitment to religious freedom and rule of law. All the answers are in there.
So this reminds me of what a lot of politicians in the United States do. You point at a problem to say, hey, there's a problem going on here. And then they say, well, the Constitution doesn't allow for that to happen, but it's happening. Well, you don't believe your lying eyes. This guy simply pulls up a document and says, the Constitution of the country says that there's freedom of religion.
And this is what guides us. And this is what shows that it's impossible for there to be a religious persecution that can be supported in any way, shape, or form by the government of Nigeria at any level, be it federal, be it regional, be it local. It's impossible.
To be honest,
there are people in Nigeria who loot the government coffers. There are laws on the books that says it should be impossible for anyone who is in office to steal from the public trust and get away with it. But it's been happening for over 50 years. So don't give me that.
In a Muslim presidency, it's very hard to explain. Honestly, it's very hard to explain. And going by Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister, Yusuf Tuga, he was trying to use the Nigerian constitution to tell the world that the Nigerian government is not in support of the killings going on. According to what he explained, he said the Nigerian government cannot support one religion against the other. It's not allowed in the constitution. To me, that's the most easiest way to go. You cannot continue denying what the world can see. You cannot. Or you can tell the world that the government is not in support. And that way you can actually ask for help. Okay, it's happening. People are dying. People are being killed by terrorists. How can you help us? Because the government are not the one doing it. The government is not doing it. The terrorists.
But the government is facilitating the situation. And when I say facilitating, they are creating an environment that allows criminals to go into churches, into Christian communities, and to murder them. So don't forget to let me know your thoughts. Now, I'm going to just put up a poll. I'm going to put up a question here. President Trump warned the Nigerian government to stop the killing of Christians or face U.S. consequences. Now, think about this. If you were in Trump's position, would you take stronger action? I want you to please let me know in the chat what your thoughts are about what you would do, because it's really easy to sit back and say, well, here's what's going on. I support or don't support, but let's know your thoughts. And I would like to know, if you were in his shoes, what would you do when you see a country like this doing what they're doing to the Christian population? Now, here's President Trump's latest statement. Before I go into his latest statement, because we're going to be diving in and out of the chat, I'm going to read the chat here. Okay, sorry. So Canary King. All right. So Trump is accurate. Yes, based on the reports now that we're getting, Trump was accurate. There's a video that Tara sent earlier on Facebook. The creator of the video was doing a breakdown of the evidence that the US government have been able to come up with in order to conclude that there is a Christian genocide happening in Nigeria. However, it's in vernacular, it's in pidgin English. So I don't want to have to spend half of the video interpreting what he's saying, but in essence, the US government has all the information and the data that they need to prove that there is a Christian genocide happening in Nigeria. And yet, people are trying to discredit him. Kenneth King says, don't underestimate American intelligence. Trump has info. Yep, he does. So why are the Christians not doing much? Now, when you ask the question, why are the Christians not doing much? Do you mean by way of self-defense? If you mean by way of self-defense, I have a video that will answer that question. All right, so just confirm if you mean self-defense. And then I play it and we can decipher patois or pidgin. Okay, I'll play it. Canadian wants me to play that video, so I'm going to open it up. Let's see where did I put that video. Alrighty, so this is the video that that Tara sent over. All right, geez, it's a long video, but I'm going to just cut into it. Now remember, you can always please, if you're watching, please engage in the chat. All right, don't fall off. All right, I'll talk about the self-defense bit. So let's play the video. Okay, let's play the video. Oops, it's muted. All right, so it's a video from Facebook, and it's okay. Let's go. Hang on, what's going on?
Leader who hit over 262 Christians in it.
Okay, let's start.
This is the deepest analysis that shows that America has been watching Nigeria for a very long time. In fact, they have been compiling everything one after the other until the day that God caught all of us. Just watch from Don Azar.
A religious leader who hit over 262 Christians in his loss from attacks in Yewa, who was pursuing this number of Christians. Where did these people know? They think say they know past America. They don't know say Americans, they get a lot of intelligence reports. For me, you can't gaslight United States. They know what you think they don't know.
They just bought the line from the government that it wasn't really happening, and they bought the line from the U.S. State Department that this is nomadic tribesmen being forced to move from climate change. The Fulani are not really terrorists. Oh, the fact that they're Muslims got nothing to do with it. Because they're nomadic tribesmen, they're looking for other land. They're looking to go somewhere, and that's forcing them to clash with the...
So in essence, the State Department, I think under Joe Biden, claimed that the Fulani clashes with Christians was caused by climate change. That they were forced to roam around the country because of climate change. Therefore, it's okay that when they walk onto someone's farm and the person refuses for them to destroy their crops, it's justified that they use submachine guns to kill the farmers who own the land. That's what was going on under the Biden administration. Oh, I'm sorry. It keeps...
That is just an example to you of how climate has been used as a scam. I mean, all of these systems that are being implemented that are so profoundly dishonest, they're systems of control. How do we control the people, control the information and the narrative, and then have that as cover to do whatever it is that we want to do, which, by the way, is to go into Christian villages and not only annihilate people.
Hello, you are welcome to this class. When people, they push deformation, make you no keep quiet, make you also counter.
All right, so this gentleman basically cuts through some posts on X, all right, and he says, look, there's a Nigerian official who posted on X, and he breaks down his response to President Trump's threat to do something about the killings. All right, so the guy's name is Festus Keyamo.
Yeah, this morning I enter Twitter, I see what he write. Make a summarize am. Now he be this. Did he log well? He the right Trump, Donald Trump. See his defense. I was summarize am. One, he thought say he be Christian and human rights lawyer. He said he once received a U.S. Global Human Rights Award. Okay, me say he cannot speak against humanity. He the
All right, so when someone is setting up to sell you a load of BS, I don't swear, so I have to hyphen to give you the PG version. When someone is about to sell you a load of BS, they front load their answer or their statement with credentials. I'm a Christian. I'm a human rights lawyer. I've received this or that award. They front load all of that nonsense before they feed you a load of crap.
He said he will never serve in a government that kills Christians. This is my point. Did Trump say Tinubu they kill Christians, my people? He just talk say they know they act the way they supposed act. They couldn't change the narrative. I don't know who they want please. Not be only him, he did everywhere.
So this individual says he will never serve in a government that kills Christians. And that is the first thing that we began to see online. We saw people trying to twist the narrative to say, Trump is trying to attack the Nigerian government and to do a regime change. That is not what President Trump was saying. And of course, we're going to listen to his speech. He wasn't saying that he was going to change the regime. He was saying if the Nigerian government doesn't act in defense of the Christians, he would act against the terrorists. How is it that that became a conversation around regime change? It is the deception and the gaslighting that we see even in North America. Something is said and then people intentionally twist it to mean something else. Here's President Trump's actual words about this situation.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
All right, so Canary King asked in the chat, all right, yes, he says, why are the Christians not doing much? And he means self-defense. So I'm going to play another video to answer that. I'm going to play another video to answer that. Now, this is a Catholic priest, and in his sermon, he's talking about how Christianity has been under attack by the government. And it's not like physical violence, but he's going to break down some of the systematic ways that they've removed the power of Christians from institutions like education. And then he zeroes into the violence that takes place and what the government does to run interference for the criminals or the terrorists who attack Christians.
A number of things Christians have suffered in this country can be compared to the crucifixion of the Lord. Do we talk about the takeover of all Christian schools, all mission schools by Nigerian government? They took over those schools, destroyed them, turned our educational institutions into houses of formation of criminals and mediocres. People who can't write simple letters, who can't speak any language correctly, who can't solve their own problems and won't pass any exam without cheating. And that is like crucifying, because that is a house. The school is a house of formation of character. They have taken the body away. They have removed all signs of his death. Since after the takeover of schools, who has a correct statistics of the number of churches that have been burnt down in this country? Who knows how many Christians have been killed in this country because they are Christians? Some right inside the church. Some will tell you these are criminals. They are not just targeting Christians. Take it easy. How many of those who perpetrate these crimes have been arrested and prosecuted? How many of them are in jail? How many of them have faced the death penalty? The Catholic Church is against the death penalty. I'm talking about Nigerian law. But we know that if anything happens to some of those who perpetrate this crime, either in self-defense or in resistance, the government stands up.
Yeah. So whenever anyone organizes to defend themselves against the terrorists, the government forms up against the people defending themselves. If you attempt to get armed security to defend your property or your lives, the government actively works against you to prevent you from doing that. How is that not running interference for the criminals? This is why when I see policies that empower criminals and disarm citizens happening in North America, I call it out. Nigeria doesn't have a Second Amendment. Okay, I'll turn down the volume on the background music. Sorry about that. Nigeria doesn't have a Second Amendment. There is, in fact, Nigeria doesn't have a constitution because the constitution is essentially not something that protects the Nigerian people. It protects the people in power. So in my opinion, that's not a constitution. So we don't have a Second Amendment. And when people try to defend themselves, the government attacks you. The government tries to make it impossible for you to defend yourself. So let's keep going. Hear what he says.
There is outrage everywhere in all levels of government. This selective outrage of government, this selective outrage of the police, of the army, of the security agencies, when innocent citizens are massacred and when criminals are repelled and in the repelling they die, this selective outrage is like, it's not only that they have killed him, they have taken the body away. They want to wipe off every trace. And some Christians are being provoked legitimately to react. Anytime any of them reacts, they are said to be taking the laws into their hands. But all those who trample the law with their feet, trample upon the law. They kill, they rape, they maim, they sack farmers, they harvest crops of farmers and feed it to their cattle. And when you say no, why are you doing this? It is death. And when they do that, they record it and post it to government to see.
These videos are available, but we can't play them on YouTube. We can't play them on YouTube. So it's crazy, but it's true. So when you're sitting in North America, wondering how it is possible that these things are happening, can't the Christians defend themselves? Isn't there a way for them to repel these attacks from the terrorists? Since the security agents aren't doing their job, they took away our guns. And that's why I'm very vocal about the Second Amendment. My wife asks me, why are you so in support of the Second Amendment? I said, it's because of stuff like this. Because when the government takes away your guns, the government controls your ability to defend yourself. And if the government decides that radical Islamists can run into your home or your church and kill everyone in sight, and you don't have the right to defend yourself, that is a one-way ticket to genocide and to the calling of Christianity. They simply do that by force. Now that you have Muslims running for office and winning elections, you guys had better hang on to your Second Amendment rights like never before. because they are depending on you guys getting disarmed for them to be able to do what they want to do against Christians. I'm just going to sprinkle that in. So that's my answer to Canary King. They took away our guns. We can't defend ourselves. And that's why this is happening. They claim that it's a they claim that it's a conflict. It's a conflict for territories, is a conflict for property, and that Muslims are also getting killed. And my challenge will always be, show us the mass graves of the Muslims. This is a procession. You can see a long line of people carrying coffins. These are Christians who were murdered by terrorists. So this is really happening. And anyone, like, there's this joker I saw on CNN, and he happens to have a Nigerian name. And now he's making it about race. He says that if President Trump can provide asylum for South African white farmers, how come he's not providing asylum for the black people who are getting murdered in Nigeria? And I'm like, the guy is a fool. This is another fool who's trying to make this about race. White people aren't killing black people in Nigeria. Black people are killing black people in Nigeria. This is a problem, a failure of the Nigerian government. And the specifics of the case of South Africa is very different from what's going on in Nigeria. So they can't pull that up. They just want to make it about race, about how Trump is reacting differently about South Africa, and not shipping hordes of black people who claim to be persecuted. Because do you know what's going to happen? This is just a fact. If the US government says we're going to provide sanctuary for people who are getting murdered in Nigeria, the corrupt system in Nigeria is going to put people who are actually being killed at the back of the line, and they're going to put forward people that are privileged, people who are actually Muslims, at the front of the line to get get sanctuary or refugee status in the United States. That is what will happen. Take it to the bank. And so even a move that should be helpful to people who are vulnerable will be twisted. Many of you have seen this video before, but I just wanted to remind you of who this guy is, because the question is, so is this actually going on? I've played this video before, and I played it yesterday. I'll play it very briefly. Then I'll play his response to President Trump's statement about Nigeria. This is the part that began to get me emotional, because these are people who are really going through the situation on ground. Some of the people, like the guy with the blackboard who was breaking down that, we played it, he was on Facebook. He's in a more protected part of the country. I like to listen to people who are in the throes of the crisis. And this minister here, who regularly conducts mass burials, speaks about what's going on.
To be outside performing burial every day, and they expect us to silence. Now is an order. Nigerian government came out openly and denied there is no massacre, there is no genocide of Christians in Nigeria, and look at it today.
So he's conducting a mass burial. The Nigerian government says is not happening. If you're watching for the first time, never seen this before, where have you been? All right. This is going on, and the government is saying it's not happening. A few years back, I said to someone, it seems like the United States government is taking tips from the Nigerian government, because the lies that I see happening in the United States are similar to what we get in Nigeria. People routinely lie about things you can see with your eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes. It's not happening. And yet we see things like this. Now, this minister did a video after President Trump released the statement. And here's what he said.
The terrorists had what Trump has said. And they are doing their best to kill as more people before the arrival of US soldiers. So I'm making this video to tell the whole world, please pray for us. Christian, your prayers is more than AK-47. It's more than rocket launcher. It will destroy and destabilize evil networking in the dark world. And that is what I'm doing right here in the office this night.
You know, in Nigeria, people depend more on prayer than they do on the government. They depend more on prayer than they do anything else, because none of those things work. The government doesn't work. It works against you. Infrastructure like power, water, health, they don't work. People are scared to go to the hospital because the hospitals essentially are dangerous, because most of the skilled doctors and nurses have left the country. So when you go to a hospital and you're being treated by a third-rate or fourth-rate doctor or nurse, you know that your chances of survival are very slim. I have stories, you know, when my wife had a health situation, and I'll tell it, you know, if it's required. But we had to fly to Dubai in order to get proper medical assistance, because the people in Nigeria were essentially going to either cripple my wife or kill her. So he says this, and then he essentially thanks President Trump for the statements that he made.
What am I to say? Thank you, equipping the persecuted. Joaso, you send money to me. God bless you. God protect you. Thank you for standing for Nigerians, citizens that are being persecuted. Let the power of Jesus Christ rest upon your life.
So this is the pastor who was conducting the mass funeral. During his statement, he credited Mike Winger. I don't think I need to play Mike's video, because he was the one who brought this video to prominence. Mike Winger shared this video and it went viral. And so he thanked him for making that happen. Now, excuse me, here are some videos. Now, this is a Nigerian in Nigeria talking about her experiences growing up in northern Nigeria as a little girl, coming back from elementary school and seeing corpses on the street or in the street, because the Muslims had decided that they wanted to attack Christians yet again. But just let's have a listen.
As a Christian, I grew up in the north. I'm mixed. My family is Muslim and Christian. My auntie built one of the biggest mosques in Jankasa, in the southern Kaduna part of Nigeria. So I've experienced the fight. I've seen it. When people say, "Oh, they're calling Christians, they're killing Muslims," how many Muslims have they killed? Let me even say that. I know who's doing the killing. I've experienced it firsthand. I'm not saying it, I'm shaking because I'm pissed. People are trying to sit on the fence. Oh, I don't want to offend this religion. When it comes to their turn, they'll stand on it. When they killed Deborah, they stood on it. People even tweeted about it. I had issue.
All right, so let me talk about Deborah. Deborah was a Christian woman who was out on evangelism. She was walking about, she was preaching to people in the street, and then she gets into a conversation with a group of Muslims. The story, I don't have the details of the story, but in essence, during that conversation, they attacked her, stoned her, and they cut her head off. This happened a couple of years back. And she's not the first. So when we agree with the reporting that we see, at least coming from the Trump administration, and saying that something has to be done, it isn't that people are looking for conflict. It is that enough has happened. There's enough evidence to show that this is actually taking place.
My cousin, because of that, she supported the killing of Deborah. So why won't I support my own religion? In Jos, see, that killing in Jos has been happening since, I can't even remember, I was in primary school. I know what I've seen. So why would people be sitting on the fence? I've seen it. Why people lying? If the way they are, this Nigeria would have scattered. Nigeria would have scattered by now. You are killing Christians every time. People will be sitting on the fence. I know the Bible is still teaching us to forgive our enemies, yes, but people need to speak up. If it's Muslims they are killing, Nigeria would have scattered by now. Even right now, if they arrest a Muslim person, the justice is different from when they catch an Igbo man that is a Christian.
Yeah, so whenever someone is arrested and they find out that they're Muslim, they are from the northern part of the country and they're Muslim, the justice system is applied differently for those people than when it's applied to someone from a different part of the country who's a Christian. And that's what she's saying right there. Now, let me know your thoughts in the chat, because it's as if, everything is just cold, because this is a very sullen conversation, I guess. But when you see these reports, do you think Trump's statements are going hard enough? Is he going far enough? Or not at all? Because what they've described is something that isn't just about a group of terrorists hanging out in the bushes and doing runs at churches and Christian communities. This is something that's going on in the streets of northern Nigeria. It wasn't the terrorists in the bushes who attacked and beheaded the Christian evangelist who was preaching in the streets. It wasn't the northern terrorists who have routinely pillaged and murdered farmers. All right, so this is her account. There's a girl, clearly you can see that she's dressed up in a way that shows that, well, she's a northerner, and she might be a Muslim. Now, here's what she has to say.
Somebody literally just commented under a post, "Thank God I'm not living in Benue. Please be for real." Benue.
Now, Benue is one of the states in, it's not technically northern Nigeria, but it is close enough to be northern Nigeria. It's called the Middle Belt. It's like the states that are in between the southern part of the country and the northern part of the country. The Middle Belt is where most of the farming takes place, where most of the food in Nigeria is produced, because the climate and the weather there is perfect for, is great for that. And the soil is amazing. Now, she's reacting to someone posting on social media saying, "Thank God I don't live in that part of the country anymore." But she's about to give some information that people tend to forget.
Used to be the food basket of the nation. Every part of
I'm going to just rewind this again, sorry.
Every part of Nigeria enjoyed from the bounty of Benue. One of the reasons why foodstuffs are very expensive these days is because Benue indigenes are no longer farming. These herders do not allow them to go into their farmlands again. They rape their women. They kill their children. They have fled from their land. And the remaining ones still in the land, they are being killed. So if you think this is not your problem because you do not live in Benue, then you are living under a rock. You do not understand the magnitude of this situation. We are all under attack in Nigeria.
Yeah. So this is, I could play you videos for days. I said earlier that this was a very emotional morning for me because I kept watching videos like this and it got really emotional for me because it was very clear that anyone who is trying to gaslight us to say nothing is happening, I've even heard of videos where the creators claim that the United States is planning to come to co-opt the resources of the country. And I think this lady mentioned that.
When he was sitting on the fence, people should say the truth. Last 2 weeks, I think they were still killing in Kaduna. For Christians, they were in the church, they carried them. So when people lying that it's not Christian, they want to come and take resources. Which resources? The resources you are talking about, which of you have gained from it? Which of you have gained from the resources you are talking? Even in Meduguri, they have turned it into war zones because of lithium. They have scattered it. Look at Bayelsa. Bayelsa is supposed to be one of the richest and cleanest states because of oil. Look at what Bayelsa is. Bayelsa is so scattered.
Yeah, so she's basically pointing out the fact that if the resources were so great, how come Nigerians have destroyed these locations where these resources are located because of infighting? She mentioned a part of the country where there's lithium. They have essentially turned that area into a war zone because people are trying to control the rights to the lithium. These are Nigerians. These are not Americans. And then she spoke of Bayelsa, where there's oil, and they've allowed the oil companies, well, not the oil companies, but the people of the region continue to break the pipelines. And when there's an oil spill, it spills onto the land and makes the land bad for farming. It pollutes the land, it pollutes the water. And it's not the oil companies who caused it. For years, people claim that it was the oil companies who caused it, but it wasn't. It was the people attacking or breaking or trying to vandalize the oil pipelines in order to steal oil to sell privately. So while people claim that the American government is trying to ruin the country because they claim that things are working out, things are picking up because Dangote, a businessman, has built his refinery and is about to, the economy of the country is about to boom. He's doing some great things. I'm like, give me a break. When the economy of one country is dependent on one man, you don't have an economy. And so that claim is bogus. And she's just pointed it out. She said, look, you're talking about resources. How many of you have benefited from these resources when we routinely destroy the land, destroy the facilities, destroy even the tools that we're supposed to use to extract these resources because of infighting?
People are saying they are coming to come and take resources. Tell me which of you have gold bars here. Tell me. People just be sitting on the fence.
Yeah, so she's made her statement, and I agree with her. Now, this is crazy because going through these videos and listening to people from Nigeria speak tells a different story from what you see from the people who sit in air-conditioned studios at CNN or MSNBC trying to claim that the thing that Trump is trying to do for the Nigerian Christians is either racist or otherwise. All right. Thanks for the follow. All right. So while we watch what's going on, All right. I need you to let me know your thoughts on this entire thing because we've watched Nigerians speak. We've watched people who've been through the situation. We've seen President Trump's statement on the issue. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Do you think that President Trump is going far enough or not far enough, or the United States should not get involved at all? Excuse me, I need to take a drink of water. I've been talking a whole lot and I haven't drunk any water. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. All right, so this show is driven by the conversations in the chat. So don't be silent, all right? Now, remember, you guys asked for this. Okay, you asked for it. So you said you wanted to hear more about this situation between the Trump administration statement against the Nigerian government, and you wanted us to talk about it more. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. We've played a bunch of videos. Okay, being Nigerian and an immigrant to North America, and having lived in Nigeria for over 40 years before moving, I can say one thing. I am aware that since the 70s, actually the 60s, this has been going on. It ramped up in 2009 when we began to see people getting murdered simply because they were Christians, churches getting burnt down, ministers getting attacked. I personally know someone in my church, my local church, who got kidnapped and was never seen again. She was kidnapped by these herdsmen and was never seen again. So I don't think there's a family that hasn't been touched by this situation going on in Nigeria. And when you see people who sit in front of the camera trying to gaslight us to say the US government has no right to claim that Nigeria is a place of interest, or trying to claim that Nigeria is the US government is trying to co-opt the resources in Nigeria. That's an old argument or an old accusation that makes no sense when the resources have been destructive to the people of Nigeria rather than a help to the people of Nigeria. Why do I say that? Because the people in Nigeria routinely kill each other over these resources. And they destroy the environment, they destroy the communities where these resources are located in order to either sell the rights to the Chinese or to figure out a way to run a black market scheme. So, Nigeria is not the West. Nigeria is not the United States. Nigeria is very different. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. I know that this is a lot to take in. And if you're watching for the first time, please consider liking, sharing the video. But most importantly, consider letting your voice be heard in the chat. I need to know what your thoughts are about this story. Okay, so what do you think? Since President Trump warned the Nigerian government to stop the killings of Christians or face US consequences, if you were in Trump's position, would you take stronger action? What would you do? Let me know in the chat. So here is a report on the screen. Here's a report from a Christian group that did a fact-finding mission in northern Nigeria. Let's listen.
Hey everybody, this is Judd Saul with Equipping the Persecuted. I'm the executive director. And I just want to bring attention to a situation that our team has come across in Nigeria. It's hard for me to put it into words, what we've run into. Our team got a call of a group of Christians that needed immediate aid. And we found out that these are people who had been ransomed out from a terrorist camp. And what's happening is Fulani Muslim terrorists frequently kidnap people and ransom them out. And many times if they don't pay ransom, a lot of them are killed. But a lot of people never ask the question, what happens to Christians if they're not ransomed out of these camps. Well, we've discovered a camp run by Fulani Muslim terrorists where Christian children, men, women are being starved to death. They're being beat and tortured on a daily basis. And a group of these victims have been ransomed out, and they came out looking like Holocaust survivors. The situation was absolutely horrendous. And we immediately deployed aid and resources to bring them back to health, cover any medical costs. And they are so traumatized, we're having people come alongside them to help them through all this trauma, to just digest everything that happened. We've got a little boy that watched his brother starve to death. We've got another kid who watched his two brothers be killed in front of them in the camp. And these are at the hands of radical Fulani Muslim terrorists. And we know there's 200 people still in this camp. This camp hasn't been liberated. And we have reason to believe that the Nigerian government knows that this camp exists because
they can't deny that they know where these camps are located. I've said several times during my live streams that the Nigerian government doesn't care about the Nigerian people. The leaders in Nigeria, they're not leaders. They're hooligans that happen to have jumped to the front of the line. They don't care about the Nigerian people. There are stories I could tell you for days where people in other countries, Nigerians in other countries who are stranded, can't get help from their own government. They don't care about the Nigerian people. So if the Nigerian government knows where these slave camps are or these Holocaust camps are located, why haven't they done anything? I think we're going to talk about the statement that the US government released recently, I think it was yesterday, that states that the Nigerian government literally has received billions of dollars in funding to deal with this situation and nothing has been done. I'm looking forward to seeing the receipts. And you know what? I'm not surprised. The Nigerian government routinely robs its own people. The funds, the state funds are routinely pillaged by people who are supposed to be serving the public trust. So I am totally not surprised.
This camp is close to a military base.
Look at that.
Kachia, Nigeria. Now, I'm trying to...
The camp is close to a military base. The Nigerian government is complicit. I'll just say that. They are complicit. If there is a Holocaust camp located close to a military base, and I said earlier that, the very first video we played where the individual on the video said, we are the ones in leadership. We have two Muslims who are president and vice president. We control the army. We have all the guns. Nigeria is going to be an Islamic state soon. It is coordinated, it is organized, and by public understanding, they know that Nigeria is being led to becoming an Islamic country. They are removing the power of Christians from public spaces. The Catholic priest that we watched earlier told us how the government has stripped mission schools away from churches, and they are all government controlled, and they've run them to the ground. These things are actually happening.
Raise as much attention and awareness on this as possible so we can once and for all try to put an end to persecution in Nigeria, to raise awareness and tell the Nigerian government enough is enough. Protect your own citizens. Stop this madness. And I'm calling on the U.S. government and any other foreign government to lay pressure on Nigeria until they can start protecting its own citizens. Our mission has been on the ground there for 4 years. I've seen death. I've seen horrible things. But this one is just beyond horrendous and awful. Still, last year over 5,000 Christians were killed. There's still,
guys, that is 5, let's call it 3 or 4 9/11s in 1 year. 3 or 4 9/11s in 1 year. Can you wrap your mind around that? All right. Let me know what you think in the chat. It's easy when people go down the Trump bad route, trying to make any statement that Trump makes about anything. Open borders, he's a racist. He talks about waste, fraud, and abuse. He's an authoritarian. He steps out to say he wants to help the white South African farmers. Why aren't you bringing in the black people too? And then the joker on CNN claims that why isn't President Trump creating a refugee situation for people who are being attacked in northern Nigeria? That is a nightmare to contain or even to process. And I've told you what I think about that. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Because to be honest, again, I struggle to go through these stories being from Nigeria, but I don't live there anymore because it's an emotional, torture to watch these videos. It is. I lived in the country. I know what goes on in the country. And sadly, I have a black pill approach to the entire thing. Nothing you do or say will change what's going on at the grassroots level in Nigeria. It will not. Because the country has become so. What I'm saying right now is it can be clipped out of context. That's fine. But anyone who hears me saying this knows that it's true. You can't have free and fair elections in Nigeria anymore because the people have been so impoverished that the politicians who use looted funds to pay for votes, they essentially distribute bags of rice, they give out wads of cash to buy votes. They pay off thugs to routinely intimidate voters. You guys talk about, ICE is coming to the polling stations to intimidate, who is ICE intimidating but people who are in the country illegally. All right, so all the insanity I see in Northern America, it just gets to me because it's a callback to what I've seen in its full-blown manifestation in Nigeria. And you guys are just playing into the hands of these liars. If a church in the United States is shut up, not covered as much in the news, and then the left decides that it's a reason to bring up the gun control argument. The reason why churches in Nigeria are routinely attacked, Christians are killed in their homes or on their farms or in their churches, is because the government took away our guns. Talk about gun control. It's been done. And because people can't defend themselves, it's easy for these things to happen. Christians are being exterminated in Nigeria because of gun control. I'll say it that way because it is the truth. If people had the ability to defend themselves, this will not be happening, at least to this scale.
Well over 3 million Christians who have been removed from their homes living in camps. But then on top of it all, they're going in and they're kidnapping Christians and torturing them and starving them to death. So I'm calling on everybody that sees this video. Please visit our website, support our mission so we can continue to help fight the persecution, so we can help stop the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, and we can come to the aid of those that are in need, but also take action. Call your congressman, call your senator, call your governor, anybody you can talk to raise awareness about this situation so we can put a stop to this.
So I want to call your attention to the website on the screen. The Chiron is blocking things. So the website is equippingthepersecuted.org. You can visit the website. You can make your donations through them. They'll make sure the money goes where it's supposed to go. They didn't ask me to do this. I'm asking you. They don't know I exist. So please support what they're doing for Nigeria. And then visit truthnigeria.com for the full story. I'm not going to make these live streams about what's going on in Nigeria. This is happening simply because the viewers, you guys, asked me to make this live stream about what's going on in Nigeria. I think hearing from people who have actually been on the ground is important. Now, I'm going to yield to this temptation. I'm going to play the video I've been alluding to. That was, it's the interview that happened on CNN. I'm just going to find that video. I'm going to play it. And then I want you to let me know what you think this guy, and I assume he's of Nigerian descent. His name is Larry. No, I don't think that's his name. But pardon me if I miss anything. But let me know what you think this guy means when he says the things he says about Trump helping the South African farmers and not helping the Nigerian people who are being persecuted.
CNN's Larry Milwo is with me now. So, Larry, tell me about the reality of what's happening in Nigeria.
Victor, these attacks are down to terrorism. Nigeria's population is evenly split between Christians and Muslims, and the attacks target both Christians and Muslims. And that's what...
That is not true. That is not true. You know, it's easy for fast-talking influencers or talking heads to skim over the facts and then just keep going like they didn't just lie to millions of viewers.
That's what Nigeria has been trying to say. A lot of this has been bubbling under in MAGA circles on the US right because it wasn't...
Now it has become a MAGA situation. I'm going to say this, and you can do with it what you will. That is why I believe there is a heaven and there is a hell. And that hell is a just punishment. Because when you have people like this who put an issue that is an issue of right and wrong and make it a political talking point and call it a MAGA conspiracy theory. That's what he's saying without using the word conspiracy theory. It's been bubbling under the surface in MAGA circles. This is just downright evil.
Issue among some Christians in Nigeria. Boko Haram, which is a terrorist organization that operates in Nigeria's North Islamic State in West African province, they have carried out a lot of attacks. In some states, more Christians are killed. In other states, more Muslims are killed. And this is an issue that...
Which states? Which states? We've played videos. You guys have watched these videos. They keep asking, where are the Muslim mass graves? Where are the Muslim casualties? They don't exist. Sitting on CNN in an air-conditioned studio and lying doesn't make you right. Having millions of viewers doesn't make you the arbiter of truth. Please subscribe, like, and share, because I'm forgetting to ask you to do this. If you like the way we're covering this and you're new here, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing, or following if you're watching on Kick and Twitch. All right, please consider following our content.
This is an issue that even President Trump's own senior African advisor, a Lebanese-American businessman who made his fortune in Nigeria, spoke about and dismissed. Watch.
People of all religions and all tribes are dying as a result of terrorist acts, but it's very unfortunate. We even know that Boko Haram and ISIS are killing more Muslims than Christians. So people are suffering from all sorts of...
So how where are they getting this information from? So this is a former Lebanese businessman. And let me tell you about the Lebanese in Nigeria. If you're in the United States and in Canada and you hear that somebody made their fortune in Nigeria and they lived in Nigeria for years, in your mind, it gives you a picture of legitimacy. This person lived in Nigeria. There's some legitimacy to what he says. And then he goes and says a bunch of BS. Lebanese in Nigeria live more in Lagos. Some of them might live in Abuja, but most of them live in Lagos because Lagos is a port city. Most Lebanese run their businesses and their manufacturing in Lagos or in Western Nigeria, where none of the terrorism happens. This guy knows nothing of what he's talking about. Nothing. He just happens to be someone who lived in Nigeria for a long time, made a bunch of money, has access, and he stands in front of the camera to say BS. And maybe he's saying this because he still has interests in Nigeria. If he says the wrong thing, his businesses in Nigeria may get shut down. Because Lebanese are very successful in Nigeria where businesses are concerned. And why is that? Because they get undue access. They know how to navigate the system. They've made billions of Nigerians. Nigerians tend to favor foreigners over their own people. So if a Lebanese person comes in to do business and is competing with a Nigerian, the Lebanese guy gets the business deal. That is how Nigeria works. I've said this before. And so when someone like this stands up to try to give legitimacy to the lie that CNN is telling, when he never lived in these regions, he never lived in Jos, he never lived in Kaduna, he never lived in Kano, where a call to prayer might end with a raid on the part of Kano where Igbos live or where Christians live, where they burn down buildings, burn down churches, and Christians have to leave the area for a time before they go back and begin to rebuild everything that the Muslims destroyed. He hasn't experienced any of that. So you guys, please bear with me while I'm ranting, but it's just the truth.
Backgrounds. This is not specifically targeted about one group or the other. However, any loss of life is too many. One is too many.
Victor, this has been a decades-old problem. It's about competition for resources between herders who tend to be mostly Muslim and Christians who tend to be farmers. It's about cattle wrestling. And yes, there's a religious angle to it, but it does not rise to the level of a genocide or a mass slaughter.
So when you have, according to the numbers that we've been hearing, between 50,000 to 100,000 Christians killed over the last, since 2009, how is that not a problem? What do you think about what he said? What do you think about the statements that the Lebanese businessman made? It's time for us to have that conversation. All right. You guys asked for this. You guys tell me what you think. We've played a bunch of videos, and I think I came in hard. I did say I was going in hard. And yes, by golly, I went in hard. We started out with all the videos. Questions were asked, and I answered with a video. But I'm doing this because it's really all about the evidence. It's easy for someone to watch me say the things that I've said and then claim like, but you live in North America, you don't know what's going on. You've not lived in Nigeria for 3 years. You don't know what's going on. I lived there for over 40 years. I know what's going on. And I let the people who still live in the country tell the story. What do you think about their story? What do you think about all the information that we've heard? Do you agree? Let's listen to this report while you guys gather your thoughts. I think what I just did was I tried to feed you, I tried to give you a drink through a fire hose. There's so much information being pumped out. I've said so many things. And to be honest, the question always rises up, and that's why I'm always concerned about presenting these things. Does it matter to you living in North America? I would say yes, it does. Because you guys have let in millions of Muslims into your country. This is not about religion. It's all about statistics. It's about math. Any country that has a large number of Muslims tend to want to make that country, or let me say the Muslims tend to want to make that country a Muslim country or an Islamic state. I showed you the celebrations yesterday after Zoran Mamdani won the election. And what were the people who were celebrating saying? One side were saying, whoa, yay, free buses and free everything. But the other guys who know what's up told you New York is now a Muslim city. Yay. You guys thought you were playing the same game. You were not. It's not the same game. You're playing checkers. They are playing 5D chess. You guys are looking for free buses. They are looking to run the country and turn America into an Islamic caliphate. Oh, it's another conspiracy theory bubbling under in the MAGA circles. That's what you're going to hear. When you come from a country where that has actually happened, look at Iran. It happened in Iran. People didn't believe it was possible that could happen. Iran was not a democracy. Essentially, it had a Shah, a king, with a cabinet, prime ministers and everything. How did Iran fall into becoming the biggest terror sponsor on the globe? It was because fundamentalists took over the government. And they did that how? Misinformation. It's easy for people to believe that Islam is a religion of peace. For people who are watching, I need you to please think very carefully. I have no qualms with Muslims. I don't have any issues with Muslims. But when your religion teaches that your aim is to take over the nations and turn them into a caliphate, and when we look into the existing caliphates, the women don't have any rights. Anyone who leaves Islam is murdered. Anyone who attempts to preach or proselytize a Muslim is attacked and or murdered. You look at states that are run by Muslims and are run by Sharia. How many Jews live in those states? How many thriving Christian communities do you see in those states? I don't live in those parts of the world, but let's do the numbers. Go to websites like the one that I asked you to visit to support what's going on with their helping out with refugees and people persecuted in Nigeria. Go to their website to listen and to watch stories of people who live in countries that are essentially Islamic states. Look at how Christians are treated. Muslims routinely go to Christian countries and they thrive. They are welcome. They are given rights that many of them don't enjoy in their own countries of origin. But they decide that it's a great idea to turn the West into the countries they fled from. How does that make sense? And the West is running cover for all of the insanity that's going on within its borders. Islam is not for freedom of speech. Islam is not for the Second Amendment. As long as you are disarmed, they can do to and with you as they please. Islam is not for women's rights. Thank you for following. Islam is not for women's rights. What are we talking about here? What are we doing in the West? What are we doing? Do I hate Muslims? I don't. But I'm concerned that Muslims tend to move to new countries that are Christian and want to fundamentally change the culture of those countries into the countries they left. I moved to North America Everything, even down to food. I had a conversation with my wife. I said, look, we didn't leave Nigeria to convert, Canada to Nigeria. We're here. Let's figure out a way to exist or to survive without needing to bring foodstuff from Nigeria. Let's figure it out. It is not my policy to force the country I moved to become like the country I left. But why is it that when you see this group of immigrants who refuse to integrate, refuse to assimilate, insist on changing the languages? In Dearborn, Michigan, they have signage in Arabic. The chief of police is greeting in Arabic now. Zoran Mamdani did his campaign in Arabic, did a campaign video in Arabic. Why don't you guys just open your eyes and read the writing on the wall? We can speak for days about what's going on. We can talk and talk and talk. What concerns me is that people will not listen until it's too late. People won't listen until it's too late. That's what concerns me. We're going to continue shedding light to. We're not going to spend all the time talking about Nigeria. We're going to show you what's going on within countries in Europe. Why is it that there are rape gangs, grooming? They call it grooming gangs so that it can, make it through the YouTube algorithm. What's going on with the gangs, the grooming gangs who routinely find vulnerable white Caucasian girls who are vulnerable because either the families are broken families, the mom and dad aren't together, and these families routinely don't have a core Christian background. The West has fallen because the West abandoned Christianity. Take it anywhere. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Any part of the West where you see this surge of Islamic indoctrination, this surge of Islamists being allowed to enter the country in unfettered numbers, and then you have them run for office and win, you find out that these people have forgotten or lost the foundation of their values. The churches are empty. They have no values to build upon. Good Christian values didn't just come with us when we were born. That's what they teach in these woke colleges, that you don't need Christianity, you don't need a higher power, you don't need a higher moral or arbiter to show you how you're meant to live your life. It comes with you as you are born. That is what they believe. But that is not what the Bible teaches. We are all born with sin in our hearts. We are desperately wicked, evil people, and we need a savior. Any Western country that has abandoned these values and this consciousness devolves into a society that lacks any moral compass, and eventually lets in a new culture that fundamentally transforms its society. What's going on in Europe and what's going on in Dearborn, Michigan, and in New York does not surprise me. It does not. Because when you have a community of people who have walked away from Christian values, they are taken over by zealots who believe wholeheartedly that their mission in life is to make the whole world one gigantic caliphate. Conspiracy theory. Look, is it going to happen in my lifetime? It won't. Because we still have people who are well educated enough to understand history. My concern is my children's generation and the generation following. The educational system has betrayed us. It doesn't teach history. It teaches wokeness. It doesn't teach the Crusades. What was the real reason for the Crusades? They teach right now that Christians were evil and wanted to go and wipe out a bunch of peace-loving Arabs in the Holy Land. They don't teach that the Muslims in the Holy Land were preventing Christians from coming on pilgrimage. And in some cases, conflicts broke out and they were violently murdered. And so, the Catholic Church called on Christian states to send soldiers to go in there to provide access to Christians to the holy sites. That was what was believed then. That was why the Crusades took place. Everyone is trying to make it look like the church is evil. They committed atrocities. It was war, for crying out loud. It was war. It's like what people are saying about the Middle East and Israel. Okay, the genocide is happening in Israel. Did you guys forget what happened on October 7th? I haven't. Those images have not left my mind. And I knew as it was happening that all it would take was a few weeks of heavy media narrative shifts, and people will forget the pictures of families being blown up in their basements as they huddle to try to hide from these murdering, rampaging Palestinians who wanted them dead. Women who were assaulted on camera. Pregnant women whose babies were ripped out of their wombs, and the videos were being shared. Or is it the family that tried to drive into the kibbutz and then Palestinians jumped out of the bushes, sprayed the vehicle with bullets, and then set it ablaze? Guys, we should be conscious enough to realize that there's evil in the world. The evil is happening in Nigeria. It's happening in the Middle East. It's happening in the United States. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in Russia. There's evil in the world. Our ability to call it out when it's happening is essential for the survival of Western culture, Western civilization to start with. Because Western civilization affords us the ability to have conversations like this in a free and a fair environment. Can I do this kind of video? Can I do a scathing review of the Nigerian government while living in Nigeria? I can if I have a small following. But once I have a large following, I become a target of the government. How come these atrocities in Nigeria are not documented? Nothing is documented in Nigeria, Canary King. Nothing. Nothing is documented. We have a bad habit of losing records, and we have an even worse habit of lying. So even when you try to raise conversations around actual things that are happening, the population is gaslit. Any news organization that tries to tell the truth is threatened with lawsuits and closure by the government. My friend used to work for a news outlet, and he would tell me this routinely. But that's why the government denies it. No, Canary King, the video you're seeing on your screen is documentation. This is documentation. Okay, this is lines and lines and lines of coffins. You see that line over there? You see that line? Those are coffins. This is not AI. This is documentation. If you're referring to government documentation, that doesn't happen. The Nigerian government, when I say government, the Nigerian bureaucracy is the final expression of big government, where you have people who just work in the government doing nothing. They don't have data, and even if they have data, here's what happens to the data. When a new administration comes in, they purge the database because they want to hand over a new project to their friend to build a new database. They don't build on top of what exists. Petabytes of data has been lost in the last 15, 20 years because projects keep getting scrubbed. Data is not valued in Nigeria. That's what we need, or what we need is documentation. No, has anyone compiled this footage? I'm saving some. I know that there are other people online who have this information. In my spare time, of which I have very little of, maybe I can begin to set up a folder to store these things. Forget the government. They may be in cahoots with the bad. They are in cahoots, not maybe. I don't know if you saw the video where the guy in the video stated that a Fulani, Muslim Fulani concentration camp was located close to a military base. That can't happen if these people aren't in cahoots with the government. And let me tell you how these things work, okay, Canary King, because while we're on the topic of someone has to do the job, people in Nigeria are struggling to eat. Today, I got a call from a cousin of mine, and he's like, I need what's the equivalent of $100? I need $100. I have a problem to solve. The government is coming after me for business taxes. I just need to take a loan. And I told him, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now because I'm not in the position to help. There are people out there that are begging and asking for help because the economy in Nigeria is taking a massive hit. On top of that, the government is not making it easy for businesses to function. So when you say someone has to do the job, how are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to do all of that? Gathering data requires resources, requires money. And to be honest, there's just so much to say about this. It's really about someone saying, okay, I'm going to start doing this. I am gathering the footage that I have here. But to be honest, that's not what the channel is all about. And if someone says, I'm going to do this and I'm going to gather all this information, is that a job for them to do while they're living in Nigeria and can't feed? These are just the real questions. Of course, people can start a passion project. And over the years, people begin to support them and send in donations, but it's hard to do, honestly. This is the documentation people need in the States. When Trump speaks, he can be dismissed if footage or documentation is not available. I believe that the U.S. State Department has all of this. The video that I was playing earlier that came from Facebook, where I said that he spoke in Patois or Pidgin English, contains some information there that basically says the U.S. state government, so a State Department, knows all these things because they have access to encrypted data on WhatsApp. They have access to all of the chatter that's going on from inside of Nigeria. They have access to the video on social media that shows all of this stuff. They have these videos. They have these videos. They know they have the timestamps. They know when these videos were taken, who took them, when they took them, and where they took them. They have all this information. The U.S. State Department is aware. The question is, will they release it to the general public? Because it is literally terabytes of information, terabytes of videos, of footage of the herdsmen perpetrating crimes, drone footage, satellite footage of troop movement. All of these things exist in the archives of the U.S. State Department. Hello, Tara. People here in the States find it hard to believe this can happen in this day and age. It's happening. Canary King, in October of 2020, the massacre of protesters was happening and it was being live streamed on Instagram. I sat in my house watching as the Nigerian military murdered protesters. And the next day, the Nigerian government stepped out to say nothing happened. Gaslighting may have been invented in Nigeria. Like this literally happened. And Tara, my sister, she's there in the chat. She was there when it happened. She was not at the protest, but she was in Nigeria along with me when all of this was going on. So she can speak to it. And look, whenever we say these things, it's like, okay, Canary King says, I'm fairly well informed, and I was wondering if Trump was exaggerating. The data, look, media in Nigeria is tightly controlled. It is tightly controlled. While I was in Nigeria, the content that I created was business. I refused to talk about politics. I refused to talk about anything that was remotely going to raise a flag and make me a target of the Nigerian government. Look, SARS, okay, so Canary King says the EndSARS is a bit different from the Christian attacks. No, they are the same. It's just that the EndSARS protest was visible. It was being conducted by well-educated, middle-class people. They had phones, they had drones. It was well covered, well documented. The attacks of Christians happens in rural northern Nigeria. It's in the rural parts of Nigeria. On occasion, you have urban attacks in northern Nigeria where there are riots, and you can see the attacks. We can't play the footage on YouTube. It is gory what you see them do whenever they get into the frenzy and they begin to attack Christians. It's available out there. If you want to ruin your day, go on X and just type a search for Muslim attacks in Kano, Muslim attacks in Kaduna, Muslim attacks in Jos. If you want to ruin your day, go ahead and do that. And then you see some gory stuff on X, because X has no filter. They will show you everything. On YouTube, you won't see it. Tara says they disposed of their bodies, speaking of the protesters who were murdered during the EndSARS clapback by the military or by the government. They disposed their bodies and threatened families who spoke up about their missing relatives. I had a friend who confronted military personnel who were beating up a mother in front of her children, and they arrested him, and he disappeared for over 2 weeks. People had to start hunting for him and looking for him. This thing routinely happens in Africa, guys. In Nigeria. It's just that, those of us who leave are so traumatized by everything that we've experienced that we just want to forget. I'm being very truthful. My first year was me trying to release all of the trauma that I had faced. I didn't know how much trauma I was going through until I came to North America. I didn't. I would literally see a police officer or a police vehicle and tense up. Because in Nigeria, the police is not your friend. In the weeks leading up, a couple of weeks or so before I left the country with my 2 kids to come over to Canada, I was kidnapped by the police. I wasn't arrested. I was driving to my youngest brother's, it was like a lead up to the wedding, his wedding. So it was like a family get together. I was in an Uber because I had sold off my vehicle, and besides, it wasn't working that well anyway. I sold off my vehicle and I was in an Uber. And I was stopped by the police. The Uber was stopped and I thought it was just a routine check. They told me to get out of the car and they asked me who I was. Then they put me in their police vehicle and drove me to the police station, took me to the back of the police station and demanded that I transfer 2 million naira to them because I looked like I was a scam artist. Guys, I could tell you stories for days. So when we see these upsetting news coverage from CNN or from people who claim that nothing is happening, it enrages us. Just don't let my calm demeanor fool you. I am enraged. I have learned how to just contain my rage and aim it at the right places. I am enraged because when you have processions of coffins, did I pay? I didn't have it. And to be honest, like, I just told them, look, guys, I don't have this money you're asking me for. Eventually, I paid them 20,000 naira instead of 2 million. I told them, look, guys, I don't have it. So if you guys turn me upside down and shake me like in the cartoons, you're not gonna get it. What I can give you is 20K. And they were like, okay, fine. And then I had to did I transfer it to them I transferred the money to them, to someone, and that person got the money to them. And you know what? After that day, I decided I wasn't going to take an Uber anywhere unless it was to get to the airport. Because I didn't want another episode with the police. A lot of people who are middle class, who aren't connected to big money or wealth or anything, are traumatized. When they leave the country and they move to Western civilization, they are essentially traumatized. And that is why I keep saying I would rather have a second generation immigrant run for office, any office in the West, because parents will pass that trauma to the first generation, and then the first generation passes a bit of that trauma to the second, but it's not as much by the second generation. That's why I say what I say. You can't squeeze water out of a stone. Guy, I didn't have it. And some of these guys can tell if you're lying. I was like, look, guys, I don't have it. And you know what? They forced me to unlock my phone. And they went through my messages. They were looking for bank notifications. They were looking for shady conversations in my WhatsApp. Guy, they went through my phone while they held me for 2 hours. Trying to extort me. And when they saw they couldn't, because while they were with my phone, they were watching me to see if I was uncomfortable or if I was scared that they would find something. And I just didn't care. And I told them, look, guys, you're not going to find anything. I don't have the money. This is what I can give you. Because I just wanted to go home by that point. I was like, okay, I've missed the ceremony with my baby brother. I can't go anymore. I just want to go home and I want to leave this place before it gets dark. My aim was leave that location before it got dark, because once it gets dark, they can do whatever they like to you. If you're watching and this is the first time you're watching, please consider liking and sharing this video. Like, we've gone through a ton about the violence taking place in Nigeria, and I can talk for days about it. Tara says many of the Nigerian police officers are the very armed robbers they are supposed to be protecting citizens from. That is true. Tara lives in the UK now. So when we talk about these things, it is to say we are traumatized is an understatement. To say we're traumatized is an understatement. I've said it many times. I get upset when I cover anything that comes from Nigeria because it is like reliving that trauma. So maybe you can understand why sometimes when I start talking about it, I get very passionate and animated, because I know. Yeah. So with all of the things that have been going on in Nigeria, and all of the things that I talk about concerning Western civilization and so on, here's something that happened last week, and I wanted to cover it. I know this is not a deviation. This is connected to the spirit of tribalism that we see taking place in the West. So this is a leftist. She has a following. She feels like she can say whatever she likes because it's freedom of speech. But when she's sued or investigated by the government for what she says in this podcast, she will claim that she is being suppressed.
If you think the Zoran thing is happening just in New York, and you think people are waking up only in New York City, you're mistaken. Look at this clip of a wine mom at the No Kings March. Play the clip.
His name was?
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you be glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Be ashamed of yourself.
So this lady on the side is so excited that someone is saying this about Charlie Kirk. Let's hear what she says.
Your friend just said she'd be happy if I died.
So listen up, Democratic establishment. You can either jump on board with this shit, or we're coming after you in the same way that we come after MAGA. And that woman out in somewhere middle America saying, fuck Charlie Kirk, he was a racist, he was a piece of shit. There are so many more of us than there are of them.
So why am I covering this? When you hear there's no Islamic violence happening in Nigeria, it's the same people that tell you there's no left-wing violence happening in the United States. Or they're the same people who say there are no grooming gangs in the UK. Or they're the same people who say that Zoran Mamdani being the being the mayor of New York City isn't an open door for Islamic fundamentalist people thinking that they now have a pass to do whatever they like in New York. You need to open your eyes and pay attention to what's going on. That's essentially what I'm saying. This lady has a large following. They are saying it out there, and Canary King asked, okay, so where's the data? Where's the documentation? The documentation for this kind of speech is everywhere. It's everywhere. All the things that I've mentioned, grooming gangs, the killing of Christians, not just in Nigeria, but in other parts of the world, even in the United States with the attack on Christian schools, the attack on churches. And every time these attacks happen, it is the same group of people that are doing the attacking. And they say, no, there's nothing like that happening. We need to open our eyes and tell ourselves the truth. And why am I saying all of this? It's essentially a call to wake up and understand what's going on. You're not playing the same game as these people are playing. You're looking at, I'm here for the economy. I'm here because this economic thing is going on. This lady will want you to believe that it is all about the attacking hateful MAGA people, because the person in the video says that Charlie Kirk was hateful. We have footage, hours and hours of footage of Charlie Kirk debating people. He was nothing close to hateful. But she takes her mic and she wants you to believe that when she says it, it's true. This is what we're dealing with. And this is why I do what I do. As much as I can, I'll cover these stories. I'll call it out. But we can have conversations. And then, you ask, for example, during the early part of this live stream, Canary King asked me a question and I would provide a video to answer the question. I just had these videos lined up in a different sequence because I was trying to build up to them. But whenever Canary King would ask a question, I would say, okay, hey, here's the video to prove that this is going on. Why isn't the Christian population defending itself? Okay, here's why. Because whenever the Christian population defends itself, the government goes after the Christians. It's like what goes on in some parts of the West. If an armed robber breaks into your home and you defend yourself and hurt the armed robber, the state goes after you. Like it's insanity. It tells the criminals that the state is more invested in defending them than in defending you. It's like when we say that the Democrat Party is a party of illegal immigrants and criminals. Why is that? Because they continue to defend the rights of illegal immigrants and criminals. All their policies make it easier for crimes to be committed. All their policies make it easier for illegal immigrants to have more rights than American citizens or native-born citizens of these Western countries. Look at Sweden. Last week we talked about, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? So much has happened. The lady who got assaulted, I don't want to use the R word, eventually coming on the internet to say or to reveal that the judge passed a judgment saying that the person who assaulted her didn't assault her long enough in order to be deported from Sweden. There are stories. We could have 8-hour live streams going through all of the insanity that is going on in Western countries, all driven by leftist ideology in partnership with Islam. And it would just lay everything bare. Video number 1 that we played today. They are happy that 2 Muslims are at the top leading Nigeria. They say out loud, we control the army, we control the arms, we have all the guns. You guys are playing a different game. Nigeria will be an Islamic state. We know that's what they're doing. They say it out loud and they tell you to your face you can't do anything about it. And then those of us who can move to the West and we see the fetus of this thing growing and we're warning, saying, guys, this thing should not be allowed to go where it's going. Wake up. Tara says, I think the difficulty of sitting through intellectually stimulating conversations makes the left go comatose, because who in their right senses laughs about a fellow human's death? It's a failure of the family and a failure of the educational system. The family is meant to develop the character of the children, the members of the family. That's what's meant to be going on in the family. She had a dysfunctional family. She did. This person would come up one day on stage and claim that she came from a Christian family. She didn't. I've said many times that many people in the West who believe that they are Christians are not Christians. They are cultural Christians. They inherited a Christian culture, but they are not actually Christians. And so simply going to church twice a year on Easter and on Christmas, it doesn't make you a Christian. Sitting in a car garage doesn't make you a car. The family is where Christians are developed and discipled. If the family does its job, then you would have a strong Christian nation. The family in America failed. The family in the West failed. And why is that? Because the family allowed mainstream media to raise their children. They left their kids in front of TVs, in front of the radios, allowed the schools to teach them about morality and religion. They allowed magazines and newspapers and books, novels to teach their children the difference between right and wrong. And then they all went off to work because they had to pay bills. They felt that the schools had it, the government had it. They wouldn't betray them by indoctrinating their children, but they did. They did. And it turns out that she is the result of that failure of the family and of the educational system and of the church. I would also lay this at the feet of the church because the church became a business. It was in the business of building big structures, having TV programs and events. It became about building establishments and not discipling people. I have my grouse with the organized religious church. I do. I stay away from talking about it because it's a thin line. And to be honest, I always ask myself the question, if I was in the shoes of these people who had the responsibility of leading these large Christian movements, would I have done it any differently, or would I have been worse than they did it? So I try to approach it from that perspective. I have not run a large movement before. Heck, I have a tiny YouTube channel. Okay, I can barely get 100 people on a single live stream to watch me at the same time. So what do I know? But it's important that we call out the things, the issues that we're seeing that cause these kinds of individuals to gain popularity, to grow up and gain popularity. She truly believes that it's okay to celebrate the murder of Charlie Kirk. You can see it in her eyes. You can see it in her disposition. She's warning the Democrat establishment that we're going to come after you the same way we come after MAGA if you don't get on board. This is the future of the Democrat Party. We've been warning about it for years. We were told we were seeing things. We were confused. We were engaging in conspiracy theories. We said it for a long time, and now it's here to stay. Because you guys have voted Zoran Mamdani to be the Democrat mayor, or he calls himself a Democratic Socialist mayor of New York. That's what you guys thought you voted in, but you voted in a green light to fundamentalist jihad. Because when you go on social media, those are the people celebrating the hardest. They're telling you officially New York is now an Islamic city. You thought you were voting for socialism. You didn't know that you were voting something else in. And that's the danger of not following a broad spectrum of thought. If all you're looking at is the economy over here, and that's what you're focusing on and chasing, and something else is going on over there, you'll miss it. So we need to be broad. Now, let me caveat this entire thing by saying this. As long as the United States keeps the Second Amendment strong, Islam will be held at bay. Only if you don't have a majority Islamic representation in the House and Senate. Once you have a majority Islamist representative in the House and Senate, you're going to have an attack, a blatant attack on the Second Amendment. They're going to go after it hammer and tongs. They will try to dismantle it every chance they get. And then once they take away your guns, they will do what they do in Nigeria. They attack you, they kill you, and then they say it's not happening. Canary King says, Mamdani, he's also a rapper. Mamdani was a rapper. Question, does that qualify him to lead your city? Does that qualify him to lead your country? Already, there are rumors that Mamdani is going to be the leader of the Democrat Party. Who was Barack Obama before the 2004 DNC? Who was he? He came up and gave that speech about hope. He was the crown prince of the Democrat Party from that day forward. They set these people up, they engineer them, they create this backstory in order to make them palatable to the general population of the United States. And it's all an emotional shell game. He's a minority, he's an immigrant, the success story of an immigrant. Well, thank God that to be a president, you need to be a native-born citizen of the United States. Till date, we're not even sure that Barack Obama was actually native-born. They've buried that story too deep to dig out. And President Trump has more important things to deal with than to follow that story. Again, I will stand my ground to say I do not agree with immigrants running for office, any office in the United States or even in North America. This will make me have a lot of people who don't agree. But guys, it is dangerous to hand your country over to people who don't understand the soul and essentially the struggles of your country. For example, Canary King, I believe you're natural born. You know the struggles. There are things that I would say about the United States, about the black experience in the United States. I have no clue. I have no clue. And again, the black experience differs in different parts of the country. East Coast, West Coast, and the Bible Belt. It differs. There are people who come out to say, your experience isn't my experience. There's a spectrum. But there's one thing I can't understand and I don't have context for, and that is being a citizen of the greatest country in the world. I don't have context for that. So I can't speak to that. And that's very important. Because when you begin to go into these evolutions of thought, it starts with a foundation of whether you understand what being an American really is. So Mamdani has no clue. The rapper does give cool points. It's politics. If you have a nice dashing smile and you have a rags to riches story that inspires, it tends to trigger a lot of reactions. People get emotional and then they vote for you. Zoran Mamdani was essentially voted in by woke white women, essentially, because they know how to play that emotional violin during election season. Canary King says, I'll tell you who wasn't born in the US, Ted Cruz. And based on my own train of thought, even Ted Cruz should not run. Like, it's an insane take, and it will lose me a lot of allies. Okay, because I wouldn't say friends, because if you disagree with me and therefore you stop being my friend, then you were never a friend in the first place. Saying this could lose me a lot of allies. But what the United States stands for, and I'm going to stand on this soapbox, and I'm going to invite the rest of you to jump on this soapbox along with me in the chat. So please, if you're watching for the first time, you like this, what you're hearing, please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm giving a very well thought out engagement on the topics we just went over about persecution in Nigeria, but also tying it to what's going on in the United States. And I want your thoughts on this whole conversation. And if you heard something that I said that you agree or disagree with, please jump in the chat. I see the backup channel has some viewers, but no engagement from there. All right. So you guys, please let me know your thoughts. I am not 100% right about everything. I am not. But I try to tell the truth about what I think. And what I think is only natural born citizens should run for office. And if their parents are immigrants, only second generation immigrants should run for office. There's a reason why I'm saying this, and that is the trauma that transfers from the original immigrants over to the first generation of immigrants is real. The way I correct my kids is very Nigerian. I don't do corporal punishment on my kids. I don't. But it has that Nigerian firmness and tone to it. The things that I believe are culturally relevant in North America might be a little bit off when you're trying to run for high office. The way we defer to authority too much. In Africa, we defer too much to authority. So if someone is in office or in authority over us, we don't push back much because that's how we were raised. I'm giving you guys the lowdown so that you understand that it isn't about where you come from. It isn't about race. It's about the subliminal culture that you carry into office when you're voted in. It's a very unpopular conversation, guys. I know. And I might be losing my ratings with some of you who are listening either live or after the fact. But that's how it is, guys. That's how it is. Canary King says, yup, born here, Empire State. It's a privilege, guy, to be born in the United States of America. It is. My daughter is born in the United States of America. And it's a privilege for her to be a citizen. And do you know what? I tell her that whenever we bring out her passport and we're like, hey, here's your passport. When you're 18 years old, you get this passport and you can go anywhere in the world because you are a citizen of the greatest country in the world. I tell her that. And I'm not a citizen, but I know. So it chafes at me when I see people inside of the United States attacking the United States, not celebrating what you guys have. It chafes at me. Our system does have checks and balances. I hope those checks and balances hold. But I think, well, I don't know. What do I know? I'm just an immigrant to Canada doing a live stream from my spare bedroom. But Ilhan Omar, really? Really? Only US born can be president, but if Ilhan Omar becomes a senator, she can be senator till the day she dies. Nancy Pelosi just announced she's not going to be running to be re-elected. No term limits. So Ilhan Omar, potentially, if she becomes a senator, can be a senator for the rest of her life. Really, guys? Really? I don't think so. I think those checks and balances need to be revisited. I think the checks and balances about Swearing allegiance to the flag, yes, you all do it. But taking your oath of office with the Bible has to be non-negotiable. If you're not going to do it, bye. Senate is difficult. Well, AOC is gunning for Chuck Schumer's chair. We will wait and see if those guardrails hold. AOC, I think, is an American. Is she natural born or is she Puerto Rican? I know that Puerto Rico is seen as people who are from Puerto Rico are American citizens. All right. We welcome anyone in we welcome everyone in Congress. Congress is where the laws are made, guy. And that's where I have a problem. High office, like being the president, is fine, but term limits prevent the president from doing anything effective. I would say more checks and balances across board in Congress and Senate. There has to be something sacred about who you let into those places. America has done a great job at providing a path to citizenship, a path to a good life for immigrants. So Puerto Rico is a territory. Yeah, but anyone born in Puerto Rico automatically is a US citizen, from what I understand. Barack Obama has, at one time, I have the video, said, they say that Republicans shouldn't remove the filibuster, that it's unconstitutional. But we have Barack Obama on record saying that he wants to remove the filibuster and make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states. And then eventually they will add packing the Supreme Court. Why is the Democrat Party so obsessed with taking down established institutions that have helped the United States? Why the obsession? Why? Congress and Senate are the legislature. And that is important. That is important. Congress and Senate is so important. You can't have just anyone standing in that hallowed space saying rubbish about the Constitution, saying rubbish about packing costs. Look, there are things that you say that, in my opinion, to the American people should disqualify you from office, because you cannot speak about the US Constitution as if it is a piece of toilet paper that can be discarded because you don't like what it holds. Puerto Rico should be a state. Hawaii used to be a territory, so maybe it's time for Puerto Rico too to gain statehood. That's fine. All right? That's fine. But then again, there is a reason why that hasn't happened, and those arguments are things that we can visit whenever we have the time. We've gone from talking about Nigeria to talking about the Democrat Party, talking about citizens and non-citizens being in Congress, who should be in Congress, and so on. I'm enjoying this conversation because it is giving me some time to think. I know, I'm entering into an arena where I know I don't know too much. And so I'm speaking very carefully, and I'm actually listening to what you're saying in the chat. And hopefully I'm learning enough to understand why certain things are being done the way they're done in the United States. I will have a hard time being convinced that the children of the first generation immigrants should run for office. Vivek Ramaswamy is a brilliant politician, brilliant businessman. Amazing that he could have the opportunity to run for high office, becoming the president. But I would say, in spite of all of that, I'm willing to sacrifice a Vivek Ramaswamy to keep. In fact, I am willing to sacrifice 10 Vivek Ramaswamis to keep out one Ilhan Omar from Congress or high office. That's how strongly I feel about this. By the way, the Congress is more democracy based, while the Senate is a bit more elite and for the powerful. Yes, I know about that. I know about that. And that puts a lot of suspicion on the United States democratic process. Because if senators are more like the elitist groups, it creates a lot of problems. Okay, in the mind of voters, because it's like, so why is there a Senate if it's more elitist? You know, there are senators who inherited their father's seats. It's like what are we doing here? But I understand what they did with the Senate. It's like a bloodline thing. You guys go all the way back to the founding fathers, so it kind of keeps that thread of legitimacy in there, which I appreciate. I appreciate it. Look at me saying only natural-born American citizens who are not first-generation immigrants. There's a whole lot of contradiction that you run into when you begin to think and have conversations that are really deep. It forces you to confront your own contradictions. And when you face your own contradictions and come up with an answer you can live with and other people can live with, you know, I think that's how you come up with convictions. All of California, a huge state, but only has 2 senators, which is good. A tiny state like Delaware also has 2 senators. Vivek doesn't stand a chance. No, he doesn't. He doesn't because that's for high office as president. No, he doesn't. There's still that hoop that people have to jump through with who's in the White House, who represents the country. It was easy for a Barack Obama to be a black president. I'm not sure about an Indian president, an East Indian president. I don't know about that. Becoming a congressman isn't really a big deal. Yeah, if you can have an AOC, then it's not a big deal. There's so many radical types in Congress. Yeah. Yes. The Senate keeps the wild Congress in check. Yeah. It's really conflicting, guys. It's conflicting when I go through these processes and I'm like, here's what I like. Here's what I'm confused by. Here's what I don't like. All right, so you guys are letting Canary King and I hog the conversations. All right, so you guys please jump into the chat. We're wrapping up this conversation very soon. We've been talking for over 2 hours. We went hard into the situation in Nigeria, spoke about it for a long while, but we've dovetailed into what's going on in the United States. I would love for you to share your thoughts about that. Now, there's a video that I want to play. You guys have heard me talk about Tom Sowell, and if you haven't met Tom Sowell, I'm going to introduce you to Tom Sowell, and he talks about the dangers of the welfare state, and we're going to talk about it because in the wake of the elections that we just witnessed, it's good to kind of have a come to Jesus moment where it's like, yeah, it sounds great to have these promises, but here's what you're asking for. So we're going to just listen to that, and then I would love to know your thoughts on that video. But let's, I'm still responding to the chat. It's hard for a wild and crazy congressman to go too far. The Senate balances them out. Now there's an accusation, I would say, or there's something that's being said about how Chuck Schumer is kowtowing to AOC and the radical socialist wing of the Democrat Party. So even when you do have a senator who is meant to control or contain the wild Congress people, you still have a dynamic where if you have a congressperson who is popular enough, it is very likely that you could lose your seat in Senate to that person. So we will see about that. Canary King again says, Vivek is typical of non-black immigrants. They come here and feel they can't be president, but they mistakenly think because Barack can do it, they can. They're dreaming. Yeah. It was easy for Barack. I think I was almost there with completing my train of thought. With Barack Obama, it's easy for Barack, a black person, to be president because you have the whites. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, the black population is higher than the Hispanics and higher than Asians. Correct me if I'm wrong. So just let me know in the chat if my estimates are wrong. I'm just saying this because of my observations, but I might be wrong. All right, so let's play this video as we kind of land the plane.
All right, crime. And in this case, you're writing not only about African Americans, but about low-income people generally. In the United States, murder rates, rates of infection with venereal diseases, and rates of teenage pregnancies were among the social pathologies whose steep declines were suddenly reversed in the 1960s. Nowhere was rampant violence and other social pathology as common among low-income people in the first half of the 20th century, when they were more deprived, as in the second half, when the welfare state had made them better off in material terms, close quote. Again, it's not the intention of anybody enacting the welfare state to cause increases in violence, but it happened.
Yes.
What was the disconnect between intentions and what emerged?
Oh, heavens. They misdiagnosed the causes of things, and therefore they misdiagnosed the effect to expect. For example, in the case of venereal diseases, sex education was introduced on a mass basis in the 1960s. And when the arguments for doing it were, one, to reduce the level of venereal diseases and of teenage unwanted pregnancies. And both those things had been going down on their own. That is, and by 1960, the rate of infection for venereal diseases was something like half of what it was in 1950. And then they bring in the sex education, and it turns around and shoots up. Among blacks, the homicide rates among black males declined by 18% in the 1940s, by 22% in the 1950s, and then skyrocketed in the 1960s, wiping out all that progress. And they had a different view of the world, and their view just did not meet the test of time.
Yep.
One more instance of this kind of retrogression, the family.
So whenever it's like what we discuss here regularly. It's not about emotionalism, it's not about argument, it's about math. If you count and you see that the effect of this ideology or the effect of this policy is producing a certain result, you know that you're dealing with a bad policy. And you don't wait to apply it to see the results in your community. All you have to do is take a look at how it's been executed in another community and the results, and you know that you know not to do it in your community because it's a bad idea.
Again, discrimination.
Sorry. So what I meant to point out was this. Sex education was brought in, and And over the next few years, the rates of venereal disease, teenage pregnancy, and other vices skyrocketed. What they think the results would be is the opposite. And instead of them to own up to the fact that keeping sex education in schools is a bad thing, they double down. In spite of the negative or adverse results, they double down, which forces people like me to ask the question, was this the original intention from the get-go? That's what I keep asking. Is this what you guys always wanted? Because if you tried something and the results were negative, what thinking people do is they backtrack and say, okay, this isn't what we want. But if you see a negative impact and you double down on that on the thing that caused the negative impact, I begin to ask the question, maybe this is what you wanted all along.
Disparities. As of 1960, this one, I just find this one heartbreaking.
So please get the book on Audible, Discrimination and Disparities by Tom Sowell. You can listen to it on Audible. It's right there.
Heartbreaking. As of 1960, 2/3 of all Black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. Among Black families in poverty, 85% of the children had no father present. Close quote. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American family.
It's the legacy of the welfare state.
And by the way, we see illegitimacy rates rising among everybody.
Yeah, and in other countries.
And
you know, the very same thing in England.
And what's the mechanism? Why does the welfare state dissolve the family structure?
For one thing, it makes it unnecessary for fathers to support their offspring. And in fact, it makes it counterproductive in many cases. A very poor man who might be able to support his family realizes his family will be better off without him. But on the other hand, someone who's strictly irresponsible, either the man or the woman or both, now pays no price for being irresponsible. The taxpayers pay the price.
Yeah.
And actually, the harm done to the taxpayers, which is serious, still is not comparable to the harm done to the families, and especially the children.
To the kids.
Yeah.
Moynihan was excoriated for pointing this out.
1965.
The
Moynihan report. That's right.
Yes.
The Moynihan report.
What is so people that took this as a way of putting down blacks. What they don't understand was that one, Moynihan was a scholar who knew that his own group, the Irish Americans, had that very same problem at the beginning of the 20th century. And more importantly, Moynihan's own father deserted the family when he was 10 years old.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He and his brother were out shining shoes in Times Square and Central Park to try to bring in a few pennies to help keep the house going. And so where they'd been living in this wonderful suburban area, suddenly they were in a very rough neighborhood, and they were shining shoes in Times Square to try to make ends meet. And so he understood that this was one heck of a problem that people should be warned about, and he was simply excoriated.
You know, whenever you have people who speak common sense getting attacked in the mainstream, it's infuriating and frustrating at the same time. Because someone who's actually lived through the impact or the effect of the fatherless home and steps up to say, this welfare system you're putting in place has exasperated this situation, it's a bad thing. And then they get attacked vehemently for that statement. It's crazy. And the person, Moynihan went through that. And he's a white person of Irish descent. And they literally they shine shoes. Whenever I hear the stories of white privilege, and I read of stories like Moynihan's, it's like, what are you guys talking about? Everyone has hardship. Everyone deals with stuff. It's like people who live in Nigeria today, and they call me and they're like, we need you to help us, send us some money. And I'm like, I can't. I'm going through a rough time. Now, comparatively, I am having a better time than a lot of people in Nigeria comparatively. But it doesn't exclude the fact that I am going through difficulties myself. So when you say to yourself, the white people have all the privilege, therefore they are privileged, and no matter what they say, they are a privileged race. That is misleading. You have white people who black people are wealthier than, who are under very horrendous circumstances that a large group of black people don't ever see. There are white people who are exposed to certain kinds of ailments or diseases that black people aren't exposed to. So would you call that black privilege? Like it's academia that has essentially dumbed down the ability of people to process these scenarios and to come to very decent conclusions, and then they have these lazy conclusions about privilege and use that as to create a class war between races, between the haves and the have-nots. It's essentially to generate a class war. Right, so what do you think of Tom Sowell's analysis on the welfare state? Because we just saw the elections in New York produce someone who's pushing a welfare system for the citizens of New York. And people are saying it's a great idea. However, there are consequences to bad policies. And Tom Sowell just gave us a breakdown on the numbers. These are numbers. The data is out there. And if you have the breakdown in the family, the breakdown in morality when the state steps in to become daddy, to provide everything you want, why would you vote someone who promises to give you that thing that will destroy you and your family? Just a question, just asking. Just asking for a friend. All right, so we're wrapping up right now. We've been on for a long time. This is Friday, and usually Fridays are like, this is the last live stream day. We're just going to do one last live stream till Monday. But if there's a breaking story tomorrow, it's very possible that we will be live streaming tomorrow, either at 1 p.m. Eastern or 12 noon Eastern. So just subscribe, keep the notification bell on, and keep an eye out for notifications that let you know that I am live. And then we can have a conversation. Today was really long, and maybe I didn't manage the live stream properly. But to be honest, this morning was very emotional for me. It was very emotional for me. I went through these stories of the persecuted Christians in Nigeria, and it's really, really affected me. And I wondered if I would be able to get through the live stream without getting emotional, and I guess I did. Thank you guys for hanging out and for the chats and for engaging. I do appreciate it. Today is Friday. Now, I will be posting updates in the community posts. There are some thoughts that I'm having. I would want us to kind of have a chat in the community posts, because I am looking at being as effective as I can be. Here's the thing: I don't have. So this is the tail end of the live stream. So this is where most people drop off and they go do other things. Here's what I need from you. I need you to follow the conversations in the community posts. I need you to consider supporting the channel by subscribing if you haven't subscribed, liking the videos and sharing the videos. And then we need your support. The views help, but we don't have as many views as we would like, because the YouTube algorithm and some changes to the YouTube platform has made it such that the number of views that videos get has dropped. There was a change that happened in August that has affected every YouTube channel on the platform. So YouTubers are getting less viewers than they normally should. And so there are a lot of small YouTube channels that are getting hit hard right now. A lot of YouTubers are dropping off and saying, look, this isn't worth paying for or doing anymore because I have bills to pay. Right now, I'm doing this because I don't have a choice. I am currently going through an immigration journey here in Canada. My work permit expired, and I'm currently waiting for either an extension or renewal. And I'm also waiting on a different process for permanent residency. All of that is in flux. So I can't work. This is the only thing that I can do legitimately because it is seen as residual income, and I'm not serving, or me doing this isn't taking away work from a Canadian or a resident who could be doing this. So I am allowed to YouTube. However, I need YouTube to generate revenue. So that is why I do the call to action to support the channel by becoming a member or by leaving a super chat or super thank. And when I say it keeps the lights on, I really mean it does keep the lights on. And for me to genuinely engage and do this long term would require a lot of support from you. So that is why I'm asking you to please consider subscribing to the membership. The link is in the video description. If you don't have it, you can ask me to post the link in the chat. I can do that, and then you can use that to join the membership. It's a monthly subscription that lets you support the channel monthly. It allows for a regular stream of income that encourages me to figure out more creative ways to provide you with content and resources and to entertain you with the news and commentary. It also allows you to lend your voice to the direction of the channel. There are lots of people who want to have a say on suggesting what kinds of topics we have for the shows and making input on the direction of the channel. That's what members have the ability to do. So I would like to invite you to consider becoming a member. If becoming a member isn't something that is sustainable for you, you could also consider simply donating using the link in the description or in the pinned chat of the YouTube channels. If you don't see the link, let me know in the chat and I'll just make the link available to you to donate. This is a sincere call requesting for you to support financially if you can. It is hard for me to do because I am aware that everyone has the different financial statuses or situations that they're journeying through, and me asking for your money is something that is weird to me. So it is weird for me to just go ahead and ask it, but I'm making myself do it because it is important for me to do it. Because right now, this is where the channel is. And it's important to be able to generate income one way or the other. Now, if there's a service that I could render to you that could make it worth your while, all right, let me know. And when I say service, yesterday I did ask if there's a story you want me to cover, send me story ideas, send me videos, let me know what you want me to cover, and then I will do so. Tara did send me the story about the commentator who was doing a breakdown on Facebook. We did look at that video. So if you want to be a contributor to what we're doing during the live streams, you can send an email to crossroadsirl@gmail.com. You can send that and then send the link to the story, to the video. If you want to make inquiries, you can also send an email through that channel. It's totally up to you to make that happen. So, so I just wanted you to have that at the back of your mind as we wrap up. Now, the official stories for the live stream are over. We've already gone through this story, so no need. Yeah, so we've gone through quite a lot. I've been talking for almost 3 hours, and we've had a lot of back and forth. I appreciate the conversation in the chat. That's what this live stream is really about. And thank you for being a part of today's live stream. I will be going off the air. It is very likely that I will be publishing. I'll be publishing more videos today. So just keep an eye out for the videos that are being published, and do support us by liking and sharing the videos. And again, financial donations are welcome. All right, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of today's live stream. It was a blast. I enjoyed the conversation and the tone. Now, if you enjoy the tone of this live stream, if this is your first time of watching, you enjoy the tone, you enjoy the engagement, consider subscribing, consider being a part of the channel, consider supporting financially with your donations or subscriptions to the membership. And I'll see you on the next one. Until next time, God bless you.